All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
And today's guest is Damien Rider, with a focus on pushing limits and building resilience. Damien is an adventurer, extreme endurance athlete, and world record holder whose feats defy logic and push the boundaries of human performance. Recognised as the Men's Health Man of the Year and a two-time Australian of the Year nominee, Damien has built himself into one of the world's fittest endurance athletes, not just for personal achievement, but to inspire and uplift others. As a life coach and expert in neurophysiology, Damien helps people shift their mindset from problems to solutions, empowering them to build resilience and keep moving forward. His groundbreaking one breath meditation technique has helped countless others harness focus, calm the mind, and navigate life's toughest challenges. Beyond personal achievement, Damien dedicates himself to humanitarian efforts, using his platform to advocate for men's health, mental well-being, and positive transformation. His journey has been captured on documentaries aired on National Geographic, and he's taken the stage at TEDx talks across the world, sharing his insights on mental strength and perseverance. Whether he's tackling grueling endurance challenges, guiding others to unlock their full potential, or speaking on global stages, Damien's message is clear. Breathe, accept, adapt, and keep moving forward. And now, let's get to the interview. Thank you so much for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure to feature you. I've followed you on social media now for so long, but how do you explain who you are and what you do? Because you're an awesome guy, but how would you explain who the man Damien Rider is?
Well, I mean, I would say I'm an athlete at first, like an extreme adventure athlete, and I just travel around the world and just do little adventures that I want to do that no one else has done. I don't do it just to break another world record or for an ego to say I'm the first person to do it. But, I just figure if no one else has done it, then I don't even know it's possible. So I've just got to work out how I do it, and I just change my mindset. As soon as I pick an event, the events come in very quickly to my head. Like within 45 seconds, I'll know that I'll be able to do something. And then right at that moment, I just get started with no doubt whatsoever. And I just start training right there and then. I don't wait till Monday or Sunday or anything for it. My whole mind just shifts straight towards making sure I get that event done.
I love it. I love that mentality that you have of just, I'm going to do this. There's no such thing as impossible. It just hasn't figured out a way to do this yet. You talked about in your life coaching on your site about how you want to change people from looking at the perception of mistakes to actually solutions. Stop looking at the faults, look at how you can fix it. And I love this, like you said, you've cured your PTSD through exercise. You have all these amazing things, but could you explain a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing and what led you to that point, do you think?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny, I've kind of gone full circle. So I'm back living in the town called Glenelg, which, incidents happened. And then I spent 30 years just away traveling around, and I've come back and I feel really grounded. And, what I'm about to talk about is pretty much just down the road from what happened. And, there's a jetty that's out the front of where I live now, which I used to sleep under when I was like 6 and 7, just because all the child abuse and the domestic violence and everything that was happening in my home life. And, I'd have to run out of the house naked sometimes at 6 and hide in rock caves and sleep there for a while. And, from the age of 6 till 9, I guess, it was very sporadic for me to live on the streets and at home and still try and put myself through school and still keep a smile on my face and keep on going. And really, you touched on it before, but that's where I had like my first connection with breath and breath work, just sitting in these rock caves, in total fear of, what I've just seen and what's just happened to me at home, to be able to just focus on my breath, to keep myself warm, to keep myself calm, just to listen to the ocean. So I started to get a real connection with that and the environment around it. My resilience just started getting built up from there. And, even though it was like a tragedy what was going on, and, experiencing things that no one really should, it's built me to who I am now. So all the events that I've done, they're kind of like, even the first one when I paddled 800 kilometers in the ocean by myself. Well, I was able to do that because I just thought, well, whatever I'm going to face in the ocean, it's never going to be as hard as what I faced as a kid. So let's just get going, So it's, and you mentioned, I healed PTSD. That was from the ocean paddle as well. Just spending that time, that 17 days in the ocean by myself, and really just looking at my whole life and dissecting it all out, like every single moment of my life. And, there was no one else to turn to or talk to, and no vices or anything. Couldn't get off and go and train. I couldn't have a drink with boys, couldn't do anything like that. It was just me and my thoughts. And sometimes it got really loud, and, it was tough for me as well. And with the emotional pain came the physical pain as well. So I could feel when I was paddling everywhere that I was struck as a kid or thrown against the wall. And, so I was feeling that pain in my body, but it was also releasing at that same time. And just being able to really desensitize the emotions that were trapped inside of me, and just be able to take in new information like the movement of the world around me, and really just get out of that tunnel vision and just open the world up as wide as I can. And, that's what I share to other people now. Like, I created a new form of breathwork meditation called One Breath Meditation, and it just puts a whole lot of different elements in it. But one of them is just being able to open up your mind a little bit wider and get out of that tunnel vision, because most people live in that tunnel vision. And if your problem's this big, it takes up about 10% of your whole life. But as soon as you open up that tunnel, then that little speck is pretty much nothing, So to be able to just see the world around us and see that, there's a bigger picture out there than what's going on in our head, and just be able to get in tune more so with the environment around us and the movement and the vibrations of everyone and the connection with everyone else. And, I think that's important for people, just to be able to get out of their head and get out of the emotion of whatever they went through in the past, and also just be able to create that movement, just to be able to keep moving forward and keep taking those steps, because really that's all we can do. We can't go back. For me, as anything that goes on in my past or even in the present moment, I just take it as, what can I learn from this and what's beneficial. I don't really look at the negatives on anything. It's just more so, what was positive about that, or a change in situation. How does this benefit me now to be able to keep moving forward and keep working towards that solid goal and that focus going forward? Because, as I said, that's the only way that we're going.
It says a lot about your character and your resilience, that you can look at that now and see, you can see the bright spots, and you can be helping so many people who are potentially going through that. That would have crumbled a lot of people. Were you holding on to a lot of anger during this time? Was it a struggle? I mean, I probably spent my early 20s ruining on being bullied in school and feeling like I was the black sheep of the family and not fitting in and not being able to connect with people. How did you deal with this time? Because you absorb your own problems and you think you're the only one going through it, but you never see worse because we're so focused on our own shite, so to speak. How did you deal with that? Because I couldn't imagine something like that. How did you deal with that? Were you using drink and drugs to kind of numb it, do you think?
Yeah, look, I use all sorts of vices along the way, and there was definitely a lot of aggression, like I grew up, where violence was just a natural part of my life around me. And although I tried to be not a violent person, it was just, you're a product of your environment as well. So, and the whole thing was, I just wasn't taught how to deal with my emotions and what they actually were. I was so emotionally unintelligent that I would just lash out instead of being able to talk and discuss things and have conversations as, men should have. And I didn't really have any role models as well. So I really just internalized everything. And, for me, that was good and bad. It's good now, but at the same time, back then it kind of wasn't. And yeah, I mean, I used a lot of vices of drugs and alcohol and you name it, sex addiction and going from one girl to another, just trying to find something, some sort of self-worth or, someone to acknowledge me or just to see me or just to whatever, like trying to be, the nice guy as well. And, as we know, you don't want to be the nice guy. You just want to be like a good man. So it took me a while just to work that out as well, what that difference is, of being a nice guy and people seeing you as a nice guy to a good man.
I mean, you've certainly made an amazing transformation, and you see how many people you're inspiring and helping with your challenges and with your your life coaching, etc. But you said you spent a lot of your 20s wasted. Was it a pivotal moment, or was it? I think you were saying it was the paddleboarding when you started getting sore and feeling the pain, but it kind of helped you kind of feel grounded and in that moment. Was it the paddleboarding that helped you kind of think, I'm designed for more than this. I can change this world by following my own vision and stepping out of the shackles of conformity?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I always knew I had more in me my whole life, even when I was a little kid. I would do a lot of things that other people wouldn't, and I was always a natural athlete, and I was like hyper intelligent. Like at school, even I would just get in trouble, but I was just like, "Fuck, this just seems too easy." What's going on here? And so it was just, I mean, I always knew I had it in. I just didn't know how to deal with it. And as I said, I just didn't have mentors to be able to guide me in the right way. So I just had to try and work it out myself and along the way, which was super tough. There's a lot of lonely times as well. Like I always grew up with a lot of people around me and putting a face on, let's say, but, I wasn't really finding the depth within myself to be able to really bring out and shine who I was. And yeah, then the paddleboard adventure was, that was a big turning point in my life, completely changed who I was. And, it wasn't long before that I was found gassing myself in a car. I was found probably, 3 seconds, 4 seconds before it was complete lights out. Everything had just got too much for me. And then it was right then, I could hear the police and the ambulance sirens coming. I was sort of stumbling down the road, just spewing up all like, just gasoline vapors and stuff. And yeah, I just had to look at myself right in that moment. I thought, what is it that I want out of life and where do I want to be? And I just went back to the ocean. I just started surfing again and paddling and got this paddleboard and paddled out in the ocean for about 2 kilometers. And I felt very vulnerable out there. And I hadn't been out that far on a paddleboard before. I'd surfed most of my life, but not on paddleboard. And then I just came in and I just started looking up world records for paddleboarding, and then I thought that's what I was going to do. So I just pretty much stopped my whole life and just started training and did everything I could and put people aside and just really focused on myself to do something I knew I was going to be proud of and something no one else had done before. And I thought I would go back to just a normal life. I was starting a skincare company and a compression wear company as well after that, like at the same time. But then after I finished that 800 kilometers, I came into the beach and I just thought, how the fuck can I just bottle this up for people? I don't know what's just happened to me over these 17 days, but I know it's something special. I've got to work it out, what the hell it is. And then I just spent the next 9 years just putting myself in the most uncomfortable situations, underwater, on water, on land, in the air, everything that everyone fears, basically, just to work out how I stay calm and how I can translate that to simple terms and simple articulation for other people to be able to understand. And then, this last, as I said, I've come back here to the town that I grew up in, and, for a year, I just consolidated everything. I just chilled out. I didn't do events. I wrote 9 books just on the subjects and really just pulled everything together, all the information I'd gathered over the years and the tens of thousands of people I'd listened to, had gone through all sorts of trauma on my travels, and just really work it out. So now it's time for me to go out again, just with, still do events, but completely different, less purpose focused and more open-hearted, I guess, to be able to share, still what's possible in life, but just, the gratitude of life as well. Let's say, the importance of life and love and connections and communities as well, and just really showing people that they're not alone, and to get out there and trust yourself and do what you want to do and live how you want to live.
Because it is truly amazing the things you've done, and from some of the points you've been at, to say, no, there's more to me. You found your your reason for living, and I think it's, you don't see it, you kind of see, it's like a video game, you see a wee bit more of the map as you go into, you investigate the level, and then you do a challenge and you get a wee bit more and a wee bit more, and it's amazing to see. That's one of the main reasons I wanted you on, because you had been at some of the lowest points in life and you came back stronger, but you're going back and helping people. And I remember the first time I actually moved on from my own depression was when I realised just sitting, thinking and talking about problems just keeps it alive. I needed to be going out and doing stuff and sort of moving forward. I mean, you said that you were kind of self-destructive when you were younger, but you didn't really change that. Do you think you used that part of you to take on these challenges? Because when you look at your challenges, it's a who's who of you fucking what? Who runs a marathon with a mattress on their back? Who climbs up an air balloon and meditates on it and then jumps off skydiving? Some of your challenges are truly amazing, but do you think you turned that dark side of you? Is it like the Carl Jung kind of shadow work? You made patients with your demons and made them more effective to help you do what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's a part of that. And I've thought about that a bit, when, people ask me, what do you think your life would be like if that didn't happen when you were a kid? Would you still be doing these things now? And the answer is yes. Like, really, I've just gone back to who I was. Now, when I was younger and going through, late teens and 20s, I was still doing extreme sports, but instead, I'd be in like Chamonix in the French Alps or something, and I had a girlfriend there with me, and she would just be freaking out because, they'd come back and like, oh, he's done this triple backflip off a cliff. And like, for me, I was just like, well, I'm either going to stick or I'm going to die. Like, who gives a shit? Either way, it's going to be good, right? So I kind of lived like that a lot, like every day could be my last day. So let's just fucking go for it. But now I still live the same, except now and then changed on the paddle. So the paddle, people are like, how do you know you can make it? Like, there's a high probability that you're going to get fucking eaten by a shark. And I'm like, well, I'm willing to die for what I believe in. But after day 5 of that, it completely changed. And now I'm willing to live for what I believe for. So now, instead of like living for day by day, I still live in the present moment, but I'm looking at 50 and 100 years ahead. Like, I'm here for a fucking long time. If I can't take my life and 21 sharks can't take my life, I'm here for a long time, So I'm still going to do what I do, but I just have that more trust in myself, and it's because I've done all these things on a negative sense that now I just use it as a positive sense and just go right and step into it and go, well, this is who I am, and it's just, I'm not on a suicide mission at all. It's just, I have so much trust in myself for what I've been able to do. And again, I had that time to reflect in the ocean on the paddle, to look back at everything that I've done and everything that I should be proud of and everything that I've been able to achieve by myself, to be able to keep going forward and go, right, let's see what's possible for myself and humanly possible for everyone else. That's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually as well. Let's explore this life. And, I'm here for a long time, but I'm getting busy living right now and doing all that I can. And I learn as much as I can. And I'm constantly learning and reading and sharing and doing everything that I can just to, not so much just use it in a coaching aspect, but also just to, I'm my biggest client. Everything that I learn, I test on myself, and it helps me articulate a lot of the emotions that I go through during my events, because there's emotions that don't even have names for it that I experience. Like you said, like meditating on top of a hot air balloon, climbing up the side of it at 10,000 feet, where is that emotion in the dictionary that you can feel in that moment, except for gratitude and present, but there's so many more emotions that are going on in your mind that they just don't, there is just no words for it. Some call it nirvana, some call it enlightenment, but it's just like in that beautiful, peaceful space where there's no past, there's no present, there's no future. It's just like, completely blank of like being internal of who you are, and that's, for me, it's an incredible moment to be able to have with myself, but it's also a lonely moment as well, because it's very hard for me to share these things with other people because there's not too many people climbing up the side of hot air balloons that I can talk to about it. People can get it. They go, oh yeah, that sounds cool. But it's like, it's more than it's fucking cool. Like, it's like, if I fall, I'm fucking dead, but I trust myself to be able to do that, and do all these events. And, for me, that's the biggest thing to be able to share with other people. It's probably the biggest lie that we've told, that everything's hard. I think everything's easy. You've just got to put in the work and do it.
I was just thinking when you're talking about that just now of how when I did my skydive, I did a tangent with somebody and I apparently kicked like a worm the whole way down, because I was just, when you see it, you're kind of like, whoa, like, I think your life flashes, but it opens you up, that part of you that if you survive that, you go, okay, what's next? What am I going to do next? And a lot of people never get that point. Because you said you had a mission in another interview where it was to find the strongest version of yourself. What was it? Was it that paddleboarding you wanted to see where your limits lie? Because you said that you never want to be confined by the expectations of someone else. So you mean like your free diving, where you just kept going down and farther till you found you were comfortable hundreds of meters down in the water with a single breath. You're climbing up, jumping off hot air balloons. You're doing all these amazing things. Is that what it goes back to, that point where you said you were living, thinking this might be your last day when you had the domestic violence, etc., that you've turned this now into a challenge to see what you're capable of, as much as moving on from that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think, well, in my experience, most people only live at about 5 to 10% of their potential. There's so much limitations that they put on themselves and self-doubt and opinions from other people that they've gathered the layers over the years. But for me, I don't have that. I don't have the self-doubt and I don't have the opinions of other people. I accept other people have their own opinions, but at the same time, I just realize they're not me. So even, let's go back to the hot air balloon climb, and people were saying, can you not do the climb? Like, you've jumped off the top of one before with a parachute on, but can you not do the climb, or can you at least use a parachute when you climb up? And I'm like, well, why would I wear a parachute? That's me planning on something going wrong and falling. I don't plan on anything going wrong. I'm just going to get to the top. And they'll be like, well, what happens if you fall? And I'm like, well, I know what happens if I fall. I hit the ground, I'm dead. But how cool is it going to be when I get to the top? So for me, they're thinking of the negative side of things, which is understandable. But, there's no point in me thinking about those things because, there's only one thing that will happen if I do fall. So I can't think, oh, yeah, I'm going to try and aim for a cloud or grab a duck's leg or aim for a pool or a bushes, or what do I do if I do fall? I just fall to the ground, I hit the fucking ground. But for me, so there's no point in me wasting my time and energy and effort into what could happen. Instead, I just work out, how do I make this positive and how do I make it successful? So all my energy and all my effort just goes into that to make sure that I give myself the best possible chance to do what I said I'm going to do. And everything I say I'm going to do, I end up doing. And everyone says it's impossible. I mean, 19 world records, and everyone said they were all impossible to do, but I just think they're fucking easy to do now. Like, I look at things and just go, well, yeah, why can't I do it? I've done all these other things, so why can't I do this? So most people have, their subconscious when they go into, let's say, starting a business or going into even running a marathon for the first time, their subconscious goes into all the times that they've thought they've failed in life, or they haven't been successful at something, or they've given up or something. But for me, every time I go into an event, my subconscious just goes into all the times I've been successful and all the times I've got through and I've done these events and these things that people thought were impossible. So why can't I just do this one as well? So for me, yeah, there's just no doubt in anything that I do or in anyone else as well, to be able to have that calm, focused mindset. I think that's what's important for people, and just, think of your purpose, your passions, and what you want to do in life, and everything will come together from that.
I love that. I love that attitude of like, well, I know what the worst thing is if I fell off this just now, but I'm not planning on doing that. So I'm just going to carry on climbing up to the top. What was going through your mind when you were climbing up there? Do you kind of zone into that moment? Are you just like one foot after the other? Or is there anything that kind of comes into your head? Do you ever sort of stop halfway up the ladder and go, what the hell am I doing? Or how do you... How alive in those moments do you feel? Because I can think of my skydive, my heart was racing, etc. I can remember the moment we jumped out. What goes through your head when you're doing that without a parachute, without support, without, when you're running or you're paddling over like ridiculous distances, getting attacked by sharks? What goes through your mind, or does it quieten down from the thoughts, the overthinking, the emotions? Do you finally feel centered in the part of the world?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was speaking to a mate about this the other day, and he's like, when you do these events, like these long events, let's say, not that we'll come back to the balloon one, but so when you do these long events where you see a shark and a shark circling you, like, do you ever think, what the fuck am I doing? I was like, yeah, I think that 2 minutes going into it, like, think, what the fuck am I doing? He goes, well, how are you able to keep on going then? Like, why don't you just turn around? I said, because I just laugh and think, well, this is my choice to put myself here, and of course shit's going to come up, so just keep on going. No one tells me to do these things. This is my choice of what I'm going to do, so why would I pull out of it? So going to the balloon climb, it was funny because one of the producers, he said, you know what would be great? You've got a GoPro on your head. When you're climbing up the ladder, can you just stop and look around and look down so the audience can see how high you are? And I'm like, bro, I've never done this before. I don't know anyone who's ever done this before. I'm pretty sure I'm just looking up. There's no way I'm fucking looking down in this moment, mate. So then when I'm in the basket and I was breathing and I was keeping myself calm and just relaxing my heart rate, because up there at 10,000 feet, it's 30%, as you know, 30% less oxygen. The balloon's moving 25 kilometers sidewards and upwards at the same time, and it was minus 2 degrees as well. So there was a lot of things that I couldn't train for on the ground, which were new. So I just had to calm my nervous system and everything before I stepped out. And just as I'm about to step out, his voice hit my head like, why don't you just look down? So I thought, fuck it. So I'm about to go on this like biggest, challenge of my life. So I thought, I'm going to have a look over the edge of the basket. So I looked down, but I was in such a calm space. It wasn't like, yeah, I wasn't thinking, shit, look how high we are. I just started thinking, oh, look how amazing it looks from up here, all the different colours of the paddocks below and the different squares and shapes and colours and everything. So, it was really calming for me. And then I just stepped out, and just that first step, because again, I couldn't, that was when I did it, that was the first time I'd been on that rope ladder as well, because I couldn't train on the ground for it. So there was so many firsts that were going on. I didn't know how I was going to feel. And because of my weight on this rope ladder, it just dropped away and just became sideways. So I had to learn in the moment where to adjust my arms and legs, like snake my arms up and have my legs over top but not just in the rungs. So I had to quickly work that out with my feet, and then just I'm like, okay, here we go. And now I've got a little bit of motion. I started going. And then I was about 5 meters out, and my nervous system kicked in, sympathetic nervous system kicked in, and must have just thought, what are we doing? This is there's some danger going on here. We don't do this. So my leg just started shaking out of control, even though I was calm. But I just stopped and I just spoke to it and said, hey, we can't go back. All we can do is keep going forward. So let's just keep going. And then as soon as I did that, it just stopped, and it was just become this beautiful climb, even though I'm full on tense the whole time, hanging on this big overhang for 22 meters before it started to come up. So I'm just pulling on, hanging on to everything, but it felt like I had all the air, and I was calm and I was relaxed, and I started singing this song to myself and got up to this point that I wanted to, just on the envelope of the balloon. And I just didn't cheer myself on, but it was just a checkpoint. I thought, okay, we got this. All right, now let's just start climbing up. And then once I got up, and I never really celebrate too early until the event's done or that part of the mission's done. And the moment I touched that board, I just had this beautiful, like, internal breath to myself before I let out the external cheer. And for me, that's what I like to capture. I like to capture when I decide, right, I'm going to do this event. So I capture that moment. And then once I know I'm successful at it, I capture that moment as well. And for me, that's what goes into my subconscious memory bank for the next time I go and do whatever challenge, start a new business, do a new event, whatever it might be. That's what I have in there, of those beautiful moments, those beautiful breaths that I'm able to capture. And then that's what triggers me going into the next events of what is possible that I can do. So for me, it's really just about doing those sorts of things. And, and I do so many different sorts of events just so I can, understand myself and just have that growth. And as you said, I did a bit of free diving as well. And that's probably one of the most confronting sports because you're doing something so unnatural. You're holding your breath and you're underwater as well. And every time you go down another couple of meters, it's another test and a challenge that you have to do. It's not like when you jump out of an aeroplane. Once you jump out of one height, it's all the same. But free diving is completely different, holding your breath and going down. And, and obviously I calm myself with my breath, and that's what I teach as well, how to calm yourself with your breath. But obviously when you're underwater, you can't do that. So I had to really try and understand the physiology of my body, of what happens when I do take that calm breath without taking one. So I would find myself just, my whole lats and lungs and everything would just relax. My back would relax, my legs would relax, my face would relax, and I was just able to keep on going down. So I'm still going through the internal motions of taking that calm breath, but without taking one. So, it's really having a connection to breath, so I don't need to breathe. So it's good, to be able to put myself in different situations like that. And even like, it's funny how the nervous system kicks in. And the first time I skydived, I didn't do a tandem, but I told them I had. I just wanted to experience it straight away, like when I was getting my license. And you're supposed to have done like a tandem beforehand. I was like, oh, yeah, I've done one. And I just thought, fuck, I'm just going to jump out, give us a parachute and tell me what I need to do, and I'm jumping out. And there's like two guys hanging on to you. But when I was going up, we got up to about 10,000 feet, and I'm sweating and stuff, and I'm shallow breathing, and I was thinking, fucking hell, I'm panicking. Like, I don't panic. What's going on here? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And then so I jumped out, and I was just like cat flipping in the air, and these guys are trying to hang on to me, and it must have looked like some James Bond fight going on in the air with me just flipping around thinking, what the fuck's going on here? And anyway, then I landed, and I was just like, shit, what's happening? So we went back up again to do another jump, and I was shallow breathing again, and I was sweating. I was thinking, I don't know why am I panicking? Is this just not for me? What's happening? And we jumped out again. I had a better jump, and then I was walking to do the third jump, and I was thinking, what the hell is going on here? And then I was like, you idiot. It's the fucking altitude. I just wasn't used to being up at that altitude. So as soon as I knew that, because my nervous system had kicked in, and the only relatable things at the time I'd been in fear or panic, so it drew all those emotions from my subconscious memory bank just to go, yeah, you're panicking, you're fear, because it felt like that in my body because they're very similar. So I was like, shit. So then when I went up there for the next time, then I was just totally calm, no sweat, and had this beautiful jump out of there because I understood my nervous system then and how it acts and reacts. So, a lot of people sort of take that for granted, I think, or just start to react on what they naturally do in life instead of stopping to have a look. So, I call it going from bottom up. So as soon as your nervous system kicks in, just tell it, no, we don't act and react this way. We're calm now. This is a good moment for us. We're not fearful, we're excited. So just changing those words internally changes your perception of what's going on for you to be able to get through whatever it is.
Holy hell, because I knew you were going to be a nightmare to interview because there were so many different avenues I wanted to go into. I mean, that answer alone has given me about 20 questions to go. Because when you see the video of you climbing up the ladder to the balloon and it starts copying to the side and you're going sideways and you're thinking, what goes through your mind? Because I remember going on my skydive, I was like, why is the door not there? My brain wasn't working. It couldn't comprehend while we're going up because I was panicking that there isn't a reason for the door because we're not coming back down in the plane. And I was just, my brain was just trying to go, but surely, why, and it was just that moment of like, and to do these things. And I loved how you said that you don't let negative self talk in. And, you know, was that leading what you said there about you kind of snapshot only the good points? So you build up this mental toolbox of you're not jumping out as the Damien from the last challenge. You're at a new level because you've added the extra level of good padding that you've taken from that last place. Is that how you avoid this level of avoiding negative thinking? Because you've done a lot of what people say are impossibles. And you said, well, no, they're not impossible till I do them. How do you keep this mental crap out the way to achieve this amazing success?
I just look at everything in a more logical sense, really. I mean, people will say it's impossible, but then I have a look at them and think, well, who are you to gauge what's possible or impossible? Like, when was the last time you climbed up a rope ladder, let alone at 10,000 feet? So I appreciate what you're saying, but you kind of got no weight on it. And then how do I know? If I've never done it, then how the fuck do I know as well? The only way I know is just to go and do it, and then I'll find out. So I kind of just keep things just simple that way. You know, I don't really overthink things too much. So, I mean, as I said, like the events take about 45 seconds for me to work out, you know, and it's even, let's say the first time I jumped off a balloon in Memphis, one of the producers said to me, he goes, you know, if you could do anything at all, what would you love to do? And instantly in my head, I remember being in a hot air balloon, like at the age of 12, and there was like so many people in the basket and we were all squashed in and everything. And I remember thinking, fuck, I wish I could sit up on top. It'd be so much better with no one around me. So I said, oh, yeah, I want to go up and watch the sunrise on top of a hot air balloon. And then if I'm up there, I might as well jump off. And he said, have you ever skydived? And I said, nah, so I better go learn to skydive. And that's how long it takes. And I'm like, sweet. So then I went to Arizona and started getting my skydive license and then started planning it and got a guy who would agree to me to sit on top of his hot air balloon. And, you know, at that time, no one else had ever done that either. So we didn't even know if it was going to be able to hold my weight up on top of a hot air balloon as well, to be able to put a platform up there and it to hold my weight. So there was like all these things I needed to work out for the first time. And I kind of just dimensionally jump into different timelines and just go, yeah, it's possible. And once I see myself that I can do it and have done it visually, then I just make it happen. You know, just everything just kind of comes together for me. So it's just make sure I have that clear vision of, yeah, well, this is possible. And then from that moment, there is no doubt. And again, you know, if I do things that no one else has done, then I don't have a frame of reference of what is possible or impossible. I just trust myself that I'm going to be able to do it.
And is that sort of, because you've said about how, I think it was your Instagram when you were talking about how you enter a flow state when you're up there, but you said there just now about visualizing it. You see it happening and then you kind of look into it. And is that what you do when you go into your sort of your flow state, that you look and go, well, I've seen myself doing it, so I'm going to go do it? You know, are you now at the point of where there is no kind of limitations for you? You're kind of trying to find your outer, you know, do you find the majority of men are stuck because they're not pushing themselves past their comfort zone? They're stuck in a societal bubble that they're not stepping out of, and we need to do some more stuff like this?
Yeah, definitely, especially as a man. Like, you need to test and challenge yourself all the time to be able to keep on growing, to know who you are and to be a better protector and provider for yourself and loved ones around you as well. You know, there's definitely men are losing that aspect and trying to take the cheap way out of things and the hacks and everything without going through the work. So then when something does happen, it's just like the fucking end of the world for them, rather than, all right, I've been through this before. What did I use last time? all right, let's use those tools. Okay, I need to gather some new ones. Let's learn some new ones because this is going to come up again as well. So for me, again, going back to my paddle, I couldn't really think about one of the sharks that was circling me or knocking me off my board, because I knew there was going to be another one coming up ahead. So I couldn't just gather all these things. I was just being able to learn how I stay calm in those moments to be able to keep going forward. So I think men definitely need to test and challenge themselves. And it's not about they need to climb up hot air balloons or get chased by sharks or anything like that. It's just little things, and just start having fun with, if someone says, fucking, this is the hottest chili in the world, eat this. And it's like, oh, well, but this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And just fucking eat it, and just see what happens. But have fun with these things, The more time that you can have fun with different little challenges in life, it's the same process that you go through with big challenges in life as well. So the more that you're practicing how you get through these things and what you actually did, and start reflecting on, what you did in that moment, then that's what changes your whole mindset for other issues that come up, whether they're business, personal, physical challenge, whatever it may be, any decisions that you need to make. But then you start to practice how you deal with things mentally and emotionally as well. So there's no event, there's no anything that will come up that I would think, oh, fuck, this is going to test me and challenge me. And, sometimes it sucks, but now I've just been able to look at things a different way. Like I did this paddle in the Maldives for 480 kilometers over 9 days. And then, and that was going to be like sort of my last endurance event, but I didn't really learn too much out of it in sense. I learned about community, but not any more mental growth, let's say, within myself for it. And then I did the balloon climb, and there's probably only a couple of things I learned out of that on the extreme sense. So I was just kind of like, oh shit, have I learned all I needed to out of this? And that's why I took that time out. And then recently I pulled this like 3.8 ton truck for 12 kilometers by myself. And I thought, this is going to break me. I really want to do it, some sort of challenge that's really going to test me. And it's either going to be great or it's going to fucking break me. And I ended up doing it in 3.5 hours, and it literally took me 3 minutes to recover. And the next day I was running again. I was just thinking, and I was kind of disappointed. I was thinking, fucking hell, like, well, where's my threshold? Like, where's it at? So then I really just started to have a look at these events that I do just in such a different way. And again, just going back to a more spiritual sense of why I do these events as well. Like, sure, there's the extreme side of everything and what I want to learn to be able to share with other people. But, as I said before, it's such a spiritual moment to be able to sit on top of a hot air balloon and watch a sunrise, to be able to be the first person to do that, or be alone in the ocean with not being able to see land and watching the sunset. These are just incredible moments that, brings you really in touch with yourself and really in touch with the environment as well. And I think definitely as a man, these are things that we need to be able to do to be able to get into the flow state and understand, what it is that we're actually looking for, because we live in such a fast-paced world, and, there's so much expectations that we put on ourselves and expected of us as well, especially as men. So it's just, if we can put ourselves in a calming state, knowing that shit's going to happen, but we're all right. Doesn't matter what goes on. Like, we're going to be able to get through this. And it's not to say that things don't happen to me as well. Like, I'm still human, things still happen to me. But the difference is, worst possible scenario could happen in my life, and it'd probably take me 10 hours, and then I'm through it and I'm back solid again, and I'm stronger, and I've learned from it, I'm more resilient, and I'm keeping on going, and I've learned so much to be able to keep going, nice and calmly. And it's because I test and challenge myself all the time. So it's not like I'm ready for it, but it's always there. I know I've got the tools, and I know I've got trust within myself, and, things just come a little bit more natural. And, there's a lot of wellness modalities out there, and, they're called a practice for a reason, because you practice them all the time, and we just need to practice this resilience and what it actually is. And for me, I just think, you always got to think of your goal and your purpose in life. And for men, it's really important to have a purpose. We need a set of like achievements and accomplishments for ourselves, and whoever we're with, our partner should understand that as well. Like our purpose as men should be our priority, and then everything else stems around that instead of losing ourselves into our relationships as well. You still do what you need to be the protector and provider, but we also need that sense of purpose with ourselves, and that comes with testing and challenging yourself and understanding who you are and how authentic you can actually be. Because as you said before, there's a lot of people, they walk around with like these masks on and stuff and don't really know who they are. So unless you're testing and challenging yourself and putting yourself in these situations, then you don't know who you are or how proud of yourself you actually can be. And a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't need to do this. But I say, well, how do you know what you need until you do it? So I've just done an event with a young kid, and we just paddled across the Gulf here. It was like 12 hours, 70 kilometres, and we had to learn how to paddle these like little surf ski things. And I said to him, what's your biggest fear? And he's like, ocean and sharks. I said, sweet, let's do this paddle, right? Let's train and do that. So we just paddled in the ocean across, and he just turned 27, and he's like, really nice young kid. And it was funny because it was so rough, like when we were paddling out, and after about 15 kilometres, I nearly got thrown off my little ski, and my paddle came down and smashed the front of the little ski, and I had like a bubble compass that was guiding us, and that got snapped off into the water. So we had to go like another 7.5 hours without seeing land in front of us. And he looked at me as if to say, fuck, did we turn around? And I could see it in his face, and I was just like, look, it's quite rough going back, and you don't like that. So it's going to be longer, but it's probably going to be better if we just keep going forward. So we just kept going, and he's like looking, thinking, are we like drifting out to sea? Like, do you know where you're going? And I had to just remain calm and just like look at the ocean, look at the sun and everything as a guide. But also I knew I needed to make sure he felt safe and calm. So I really took on that protective sense for him to be able to get across there. And, we saw whales and a shark and dolphins come with us for half an hour. A big sea eagle came and landed next to us. And there was a lot of things. We were like in a lot of pain going across there as well, like just screaming. But how he changed on the other side was ridiculous. Like he was pretty much, as soon as we got over there, through this challenge, and it was the biggest thing that he'd ever done, his voice changed, the way he walked changed, his whole mindset changed. Like he went from like just this nice kid to a good man, and it took him a few days. And I gave him like a little bit of time and said, how you feeling? He goes, I don't know how to feel. Like I don't really know what's happened to me. All I know is the reality of my world has changed a little bit now, and I don't really understand why. So because I've been through all these events, it was nice to be able to help him articulate what he is actually feeling. And I just reminded him and said, look, something, special's gone on. You've leveled up a lot. What you want to try and think about is not go back down to the level that you were at before you did this paddle, and be drawn back down to the people around you who have not had an experience like this, and just keep leveling up. And it's not to say that, you're better than anyone else, because no one's better than anyone else, but you have had a new experience and you have gone up another level. So that's now your baseline of what's possible in life. And from that, he had a bad relationships with his father, who always had put this self-doubt on him and lack of confidence within himself because of what was drawn on. He was able to have that conversation with his dad and sit down and just, nut that out and put all that to bed. And now he's just got this amazing trust within himself. So, again, it's just one example of why people should test and challenge themselves, and, in different events, but also by yourself as well. It's very different. And obviously the ocean's very different as well, because I've done events on land and in the ocean, and in the ocean with other people, and in the ocean by myself as well. And, nothing beats it, just having a look at that open ocean and just not seeing land and not having that bounce back, as I call it. So when you're on land, or if you're in a room, your thoughts just start bouncing back off the walls, back into you, and you keep running that same scenario through your head again and again and again and again. But when you're out in the ocean, that scenario just goes out because there's no way it's coming back. And it still might be the same scenario, but you're looking at it in so many different levels until it's just gone, completely gone out of your mind, because you do have that openness and that beautiful way of thinking. And it's like you're in that theta brainwave stage where you're just nearly daydreaming. You're awake, but you're daydreaming, and you don't think about the land behind you or if you're going to make it in front of you. You're just right in that moment, just feeling the emotions in your body then, and allowing those thoughts to just come out and just flow out freely, So it's really incredible moments to be able to share with yourself, and that whole sense of gratitude of what you're able to do. And also it's, you've told yourself to go into that situation. There's no one holding you to it. So to be able to go there, to have that sense of achievement, and, it's not to say you need to paddle out in the middle of the oceans or anything like that, but, I encourage people just to get out there, get a paddleboard, get a little surf ski, and just paddle even a kilometre out and just sit there and just feel the environment, feel the movement, feel the vibration of the whole earth, of what we're a part of, just gives you that sense of belonging to a conscious collective, and that we're all connected some way.
Because that's the kind of stage I'm at just now. Is like I'm pre-paddleboard, shall we say? I've got the nice car. I've got the flat. I was in a good job. I've now got the most money I've ever had in my life, and I keep sitting there going, "What is the point? There must be more to life than this. There needs, because society, we're told as men, you must be married by 30, kids by 40. You have to have the 2.5 kids and the picket fence and the dog and that." And you're like, but what if that's not your path? What if, and you then judge yourself against people who do have it and feel inferior. And I think that's what I need. I need to find my own goal like this. I mean, the podcast helps me get and speak to amazing people like you. I mean, that answer alone will have inspired so many people. But how do we get to a point? Because I think you said you treated your paddling as like almost a version of EDMR training. So you kind of healed yourself by just focusing on the next stroke, the next paddle, the next, step with the car as you're pushing, or the lorry you're pulling. Is that how we should look at these things? Is just to zone in on our actions and then just let things out and kind of feel in that moment? How can we start doing that while we're paddling and stuff to enter that flow state that you enter?
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't know their purpose. I think that's a big start, and they say, how do you find your purpose? But for me, it's whatever, have a look at your life and wherever you've been fulfilled, and what makes you happy naturally, and, money's great. We can all make money and we can all lose money and we can all have the cars and houses and all that sort of stuff. It's just about putting the work in and you can get it, but there's more to it. And again, it just comes back to what your purpose is and what your passion is and what makes you fulfilled in life and what you want to be and how you want to be, how you want to show up for yourself also, and just start making those adjustments to it. So, and just shift things around. So let's, take a paddleboarding adventure, for example. You get out there and start paddling, think, you're all enthusiastic and you're like, yeah, this is cool. I'm on the ocean. I'm going to do something good for myself. And you get to a point of thinking, what the fuck am I doing? I'm tired. I've got to go in. This is shit, but that's the moment when you got to keep on going, because just have a look at things on a logical sense of, I'm only standing. I'm not really doing anything. I'm standing on the paddleboard and I'm moving my arms with this paddle in the water and going along. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I look at things, even if it's, I'm paddling 100 kilometers for the day, let's say on a paddleboard, then it'll just be, for me, it's just easy. You're just standing there and you're just paddling. Like, what's so fucking hard about it? I'm just doing it for a long time. That's all. So when these things come up in your mind, you've just got to keep on going through them. Just keep working through those things, and just all you need to focus on is keeping yourself calm. Keep yourself calm, right? Okay, how do I calm my breath? How do I calm my body? Okay, my shoulders are in pain, my feet are in pain, my hips are in pain. Okay, how do I calm all those things down? And then just, instead of thinking of the pain, just have that as your new baseline. Okay, well, it's not going to get any better, but it's probably not going to get any worse either. So this is the pain that I'm dealing with right now. that's my new baseline of what's normal. And then you just keep on going through. So for me, that's how I keep going through the different stages and different levels. So, I know if I'm going into a 9-day paddleboard event in the Maldives, I know my feet are going to swell. I know I'm going to be blurred vision. I know I'm going to be in pain. I know I'm going to feel lost out there. I know all these voices are going to come into my head. I know I'm going to be short of breath. I know I'm going to dehydrate. I know I'm going to get sunstroke. So I know all these things are going to happen. It's not like I preempt them, but when they do come, it's not like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. It's like, all right, here it is. Okay, this was coming. It was bound to happen. So let's just deal with it and keep on going, because I've got two choices. I either stop or I just keep on going.
I love that. I love how analytical it is. It's kind of like, well, I was expecting that. I planned this out. I've seen it in my head, so I know this is going to happen. I'm going to probably see a shark. I'll probably have to bump that on the nose. I'll lose a compass. I'll have a panicking neighbor, companion. Yeah, let's just get it done. And I love how you can control your emotions, because you said about how emotional control should be taught at school. How can a normal person like myself, and when I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm hoping to get back to it. It was the first time I ever felt in the moment, because you had a big sweaty guy on top of you try to choke you out. So you can't be worried about your drama, your depression, stuff at work, because if you do, it's lights out. How would you start teaching people to control their emotions? Because you said there when you lost your compass that you just went, okay, I need to stay calm, just go forward. How can we learn these sorts of things so that we can control ourselves to start being able to do these things?
So, look, the best way is just obviously with your breath, but when you're in the moment, it's hard to think of these tools. So what I suggest to people is, when you do think of it, we get those moments afterwards and go, fuck, I wish I had handled that differently. Oh, I wish I could have done that. Visualize in your head, or take that breath, or what you should have done in that moment right there and then. Don't wait for it to happen again, because again, it's all about practice. We're practiced the wrong way, and we're practiced the wrong way in school of how to breathe. The teachers say big breath in, everyone's like, just breathe into your chest. So really what we're doing is practicing panicking. We're not even breathing properly. So it's about, changing the way that we breathe, the way that we think, the way that we transform things around. But it's also being able to step outside of your mind as well. It's the people think, I talk all over the world, and people think, oh, I'm going fucking crazy, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, you know what? Everyone talks to themselves. But it's what we're saying and how we're engaging with it. And it's the same you could be sitting there on the computer and, the music's playing in the background. You don't know. The music's just going in. There's no engagement in it. But then a song comes on that you like, and you're like, oh, shit, okay, I'm into this. And you sing along, and then you disengage and come back. It's the same thing with our head and all the voices that are going on in our head at the same time. We can either choose to engage in it and have it affect us, or we can just step away from it a little bit and just observe it and allow it to go past. And the more that we observe these voices and we are able to see what they're actually telling us, because if the same scenarios keep running through our head, it means we haven't learned what we needed to from them. So as soon as we learn what we need to from them and take our own accountability and responsibility for whatever's running around in our head, then it changes and it morphs, and then we start seeing different layers of it, or it's just gone as well. So it's with different people who come and go out of our life as well. Maybe it's, you had a girlfriend who's something's happened and you can't get over them. You're only thinking of the good times and everything. But instead, or you might think of the bad times of what she's done, but we're able to just have a look at that and go, okay, what did I learn out of this? And then that just starts to fade away, and you have more of an appreciation of that time together, rather than, oh, it was a shit time in my life, or this or that, looking at things in a negative sense. We're able just to have a look at things. All right, what did I learn? So long as, if we're learning something out of every situation, then every situation is good for us, whether it's good or bad.
Because I remember I interviewed Brent Smith, a lifestyle coach, and I think it was episode 2, and he said, there's the first big aha I've had on the show when he said, you can change your story at any point. The thing that you're telling yourself, how we live by these stories we tell ourselves, and he said, you can just change it in seconds and live a complete different life. And I remember thinking, no, you can't, don't be silly. And I tried it and I was like, holy hell, this is life changing. And it was that moment of like, I also was trying to get on the guy that did Headspace, the meditation app, because when I started using Headspace, I think it was 10 minutes for 10 days or something, they have this challenge on. And it was on about how just let a thought come in, think of it as a road, and let it go past. You don't need to react to it. You don't need to kind of make peace with it, make sense of it. You just have to let it go. And I've always kind of fought bad emotions about ex-girlfriends and missing them, and bad things have happened, or bad things I've said or did or whatever. And now suddenly I try to let it pass. And I'm getting better at it. And I think that's what we should teach kids, is that mental toolbox of how to deal with jealousy, how to deal with anger, none of this is taught. You're taught how to add 2 + 2, but not how to deal with this internal, which could be a prison that you carry around in your head. And is this kind of going down to this one breath meditation that you kind of put out? Because there's that badass picture of you sitting under the water meditating. Do you think that's something that we need to learn, is how to let the traffic in our heads go by and realize that's just our brain pumping out suggestions? It's not who we are.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all this stuff needs to get taught in school, and especially, social media gives you 2 emotions. Either you're going to be happy with life or you're depressed. And then there's a big thing, mental health's huge across the world at the moment. I was talking to the CEO of this mental health organization that does research on it. And I said, well, can you tell me, what is it that you're researching? Why are you doing the research? And he said, well, because everyone's going through something. I said, so is that the problem? Everyone in the world is going through something. That's the problem with mental health. And he said, yeah, that's a problem. Everyone's going through something. So I said, well, why is that a problem? If everyone's going through something, why is it a problem? Doesn't that just mean it's a natural part of life? We struggle, we learn, we succeed. We struggle, we learn, we succeed. And I think that's what we need to be able to share with people, that a struggle is a natural part of life. Keep on going. So, but at the moment, it's being told that if you're struggling, there's something wrong with you. You need to go and see someone. You need to sort this out. But it's not, it's just about, okay, there is struggles and this is my choice to be able to do this, whether it's start a business, go in a relationship, break up with someone, whatever it may be. But it is just a natural part of life, and we need to be able to learn instead of shying away from it. It's the same as men get sick and they're, it's like the fucking first time they've ever been sick. You're like, mate, you've been sick hundreds of times. You're not going to die. You're getting through it. It's the same sort of situation. In the age that we are now, there's nothing that's coming up that we haven't already gone through. So we should be able to get through whatever's coming up. Now, again, it's not to say I'm the most chill, calm person in the world all the time. I still have human experiences and, lose my shit sometimes, but it's very quickly, and it takes a lot as well. Just because I'm able to have a look at the situation, just be able to use the tools and keep calm and know that I can get through it as well, and be able to have a bit of a laugh. And, there's still things that come up, in relationships and that as well, that I have to deal with. And, especially the life that I live, it's, I travel around the world jumping off hot air balloons. It takes a certain girl that wants to, stop that sort of thing, because I always get that, how are you going to keep doing this? And I'm like, well, fuck, this is just who I am. It's just, it's hard for people to understand that I don't need to do these things, but it's just who I am. It's not like I'm still trying to find myself. I'm not trying to discover anything like this. It's just, I love having experiences in life, and I want to experience everything that I can while I'm here. We don't know how long we're here for. So I just want to be able to do and live how I want to live, in case tomorrow's my last day. I want to know that I'm doing what I want to be able to do, and be able to share and be able to live with where I am and be with who I want to be with at the same time, these emotions need to be taught in school, definitely, and just how to breathe and connect with ourselves. And, going back to the one breath meditation, that's why I created that. And I was out surfing at this place called Nias, and this guy who I was surfing with, he was doing meditation, had some app that he was using for 12 minutes every morning. He's like, do you want to do it with me? I said, no, I'm going to sleep in for that extra 12 minutes. And his little Tibetan bell, ding, would go, and that'd be like my little alarm. I knew it was time for me to get up. And I was talking to him about it, saying, and he'd had like a lot of anxiety and everything. And talking to him about it, saying, tell me about your meditation. And he's like, oh, it's a game changer for me. It makes myself just so calm for the rest of the day. I can get through anything. And this place that we were surfing at is it's quite mechanical. It's on this reef and it's a beautiful spot. And he was telling me about it. You paddle out, your hair doesn't even get wet. You can catch these beautiful waves. If, you get caught on the inside, you just go out to the channel and just sucks you back out. Like, it's literally mechanical, this place is. And then the next day, we'd gone out there and I caught a wave, and then I watched him and he got pitched over the falls, and he was stuck like where the waves were coming in. I could just see him panicking. I'm thinking, what the fuck's he panicking for? Why doesn't he just come over here? He told me yesterday what you do in that situation. You just come over to the channel. So I'm sitting there just observing him for a while, and he's just panicking. He's trying to hang onto his board and trying to get back on. He's getting thrown around in whitewash. And I called out to him, and I said, I'll come over here. And he came over, and he's like snapped out of it, came over, and he goes, oh, I've got to go. And I said, what are you going for? And he's like, oh, I've got to go. And I was like, all right, I'm staying out. And then I spoke to him about it. I said, why couldn't you call on your meditation? And he said, I couldn't call on it. So I instantly in my head, I thought, okay, there's a place for it, but it needs to evolve a little bit, because, this is a practice that's, it's created 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, and things were a lot different then to they are now. So it just hasn't really evolved. So I just need to add more elements in. So I just started to think about everything I'd done in my life and all the therapies that I've gone through and all the rituals and gurus, you name it, I've done it, naked full moon, washing crystals in the ocean water and fucking everything, right? Everything. I was trying to get rid of the demons that were going on in my head.
Good Friday night.
Right. And so it's just gathering everything and just being able to understand what result I wanted for myself and for everyone else, and be able to work backwards, like on a 5-level program of how we actually learn, with 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we were learning in an overlapping sense. And then what was important as well, and gathering things like you mentioned, the EMDR therapy. So being able just to open up and allow your eyes to move around. And we all do EMDR therapy, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And we all do it when we're like people watching. Everyone loves people watching. It's because, you sit down in a cafe and you allow your emotions to come out while you're watching the whole world move around you, because your eyes are moving from left to right. And same as well, like when we're around a campfire, there might be 20 people around there and everyone just goes quiet for a while. Everyone's watching the movement of the burning embers just bouncing up and down. So we all do these things naturally, and that's what I was doing in the ocean as well. So added that in there, and EFT, which is emotional freedom therapy as well. And, that works with like tapping certain spots, and they think of like some trauma that's happened where it's been caught in your body, and you start tapping at it and starting to move it around. But I use the natural elements like the wind to get people to feel where the wind's hitting them. So then it's without focus on what you're actually thinking about or on that trauma. It just naturally goes to it. So your subconscious and your nervous system starts to act with the environment around you to hit those spots, to be able to move them out of your body as well, while you're taking in new information, like watching the ocean movement as well. And then be able to put that into a movement, so staying quiet and just walking up the beach for 15 minutes, using these tools to be able to look around and feel the wind and really just get in tune with what we lost along the way. Because when we grow up from the age of like 0 to 5, we're exploring everything in life. We have no fear, we have no doubts, because no one's told us that if you run down the road that you can trip over a rock and everything. So we just go for it. But we also, if you watch little kids, they do a couple of things. So a baby, when it breathes, its belly moves up and down. They don't move into their chest, their belly moves. So they haven't been told any other way to breathe. So that we know that's our natural way to breathe. We should breathe in through our nose, inflate our belly, and come out through our mouth. Now we need to breathe this way, and that's why we've got nose hairs, because it blocks all the dust and everything, the bacteria that comes in, so it filters that, and then we breathe out through our mouth, right? So we know that's how our body's supposed to act and react with those situations. But you see little kids as well, when it's windy, they don't go, oh, it's windy. They turn their head and they feel the wind. Like, where's it coming from? Is it warm? Is it cold? Do I like this? So they're really in touch with their own senses, and that's something that we start to lose as well. And then on the sight sense, you know, you could be walking along the beach and one person might say, oh, it's rough out there. But me as a surfer, I go, oh, it's amazing out there. Oh, look at that beautiful little wave. So it's being able to see the world in a little bit different way, but using those senses, those natural senses, to be able to open ourselves back up. And then that way it calms our mind down, because there's other movement that's going on, there's other learning. And the more that we can open ourselves up, then the more we get out of that tunnel vision, and we start seeing the world in just such a different way and such an open way. And when we can do that, then conversations that we have with people, we're not just waiting for us to talk, to spit something out or win this argument. It's about understanding and seeing their point of view and seeing their body language and understanding the whole perception of what's actually going on in this conversation, rather than what we think is going on. So to be able to give ourselves that time, that internal time, to slow everything down. And again, we come back to that breath. So if you've got a nice calm breath that's going on, then you can elevate your stress, your heart rate and everything else, because everything's calm on the inside. So you can run. So for me, you know, like I run at a fairly fast pace, but I have like a slow breath. So everything's still calm on the inside, or I can think very fast, but I don't get fatigued because my internals are nice and slow and calm. So I feel if your internals are calm, then your externals calm as well. So we're able to deal with situations that come up. Otherwise, you know, if we're panicking, we're shallow breathing, then everything's a panic as well. You know, in every situation, that how we are in today's situation, how we're looking at things, is how we look at things in the past with situations as well. If we're calm in our mind and what we're doing here in the present moment, then the situation that's in our head will look calm as well. If we're panicking and we're stressing out and we're fighting against life or anything, or even, you know, paddleboarding in an ocean, you know, you're fighting against the ocean, then what's running around in our mind, that'll be like a struggle as well. So how we deal with things now is how we look at things in the past as well. So the more that we can stay calm in that present moment, then what happened in our past seems calm, and it's able just to go away as well. So that just we get satisfied with that and go, okay, we've dealt with that. And things will keep coming up, and they keep coming up and keep coming up. But what we don't want to do is just start banking them up. You know, we don't want to bank all these things up. Like, I've got zero emotional attachment to what happened to me as a kid. It's not because I block it. It's just not a part of my life anymore. So situations and you know, things that I deal with right now, you know, so I don't have all those layers of my past, because I deal with situations as they come up. If I need to have a conversation with someone, I go and have a conversation. And again, you know, we were talking about before, like what men are not doing and doing. You know, we're not having those conversations. You know, if something happens, you know, as a man, I think we need to sit down and have a conversation. It's been, you know, since the beginning of time, or the warriors and the chiefs of all the tribes, you know, they'll go and sit down and they'll talk, and they'll either form an alliance, they share a gift and part ways, or they go to war, you know, and that's what we need to do. And whatever outcome of those three things are, well, at least we know that it's settled and it's out of our head. You know, so I encourage people, a lot of people now, you know, in the spiritual world, not, you know, I'm quite spiritual myself, but, you know, they say, oh, avoid those things, just let it go. But if there's energy with one person, there's energy with both people. So it's not about letting it go. It's about having conversations, about stepping into it. And as a man, you know, we sort of talked about it before, of just trying to shy away and trying to be soft about things. You know, it's not about being aggressive, trying to be the alpha male, but it's about, you know, understanding yourself and just really stepping into life and not shying away from it, because all of these things, they all add up to how we deal with every situation that comes up, whether it's in a personal life or whether it's in business, especially in relationships as well. You know, most times relationships don't work because you don't have a conversation. You don't just sit down and talk. When you start doing it, you get the cold sweats, fuck, like it's not going the way I wanted to. But the more you can practice it in all sorts of ways about having these conversations and about being able to use your voice as well and understand what you're saying, where it's coming from also. And you can really only do that when you do test and challenge yourself put yourself in different situations, so you do have that trust within yourself that what you are saying, and you know who you are.
I love that. It's definitely something I need to work more on, because when I'm in the zone, if I'm working on doing jiu-jitsu and I'm cycling and I'm doing all this sort of stuff, I'm fine. But the second I slip back, it becomes a nightmare, and I can be thinking and having a conversation with you, and I'd be thinking about an ex-girlfriend and how this conversation we had 10, 15 years ago, and my head would be putting out like it's all this emotion in my body and that. And I can remember at work sometimes doing that, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So I had this prison that I just kept carrying this around, and I love that attitude of just kind of just absorbing it, dealing with it, stepping into it. Is this where the concept you were talking about of the difference between healthy stress and self-imposed pressure? It lets you focus on challenging yourself, building that stress with the extreme challenges, but not letting all the pressure of life get to you. You're focusing only on the things that matter and not all the other noise that's about.
Yeah, I mean, stress gets a bad rap, but we need stress. That's how we keep on moving through life. So I think people get confused between the words of stress and pressure. Because people will say, oh, I'm so stressed at work, I've got to get this, job task done or I'm going to get fired and da-da-da. But that's not stress, that's pressure. So we build up the pressure and then creates more stress for ourselves. So if you think of like two ceilings, you're trying to push up the pressure and push up the stress, we're only going to be here. But for me, I just pop away all the pressure and push up the stress. That's how I'm able to do what I do. I purposely put myself in stressful mental, emotional situations and push my body to its extreme stress. But I'm able to do that further than most people because I don't have that extra pressure and those extra layers. And what that pressure is everything that we've heard all of our life that have just gathered up and weighing us down. Like it's something simple. Like we spoke a little bit about words before, and it's just something simple about changing the words from, have a safe flight to have a good flight. Why have a safe flight? That instantly is a negative, so that person, even though it might seem endearing, that person's like, oh, fuck yeah, what happens if the plane goes down? Instead of just having a good flight, and then I don't think about it. So within yourself as well, like you're training yourself and them. And then, as I was saying before, we got to catch ourselves in that moment. So even if you do say, have a safe flight, oh, you know what? I mean, have a good flight. And just change it. So we start changing these words, and what that does is start releasing those pressures. So we can look at things a little bit more logical of everything. And going back to what I was saying, like if no one else has done it, then I don't know it's possible, but I don't know it's impossible until I just go and do it. And that's all I know. So there's no point in me having that extra pressure on or making up those extra voices in my head of what could happen. Because as we know, we sometimes build things up, and then when we actually do them, we go, oh, that wasn't that bad after all. So if we look at everything like that, because we don't know anything until we go and do it, and it's not about if someone else has gone and done it, because they're different to us. So it's about us going to do it. Then we know. Then we understand. That's why we understand who we actually are. We get more authentic with ourselves, and we find our voice. And I think that's important for people to really find their own voice.
I love the way you look at stuff. I really wish you were teaching this in schools when I was younger, because I think I would have been a completely different person. Because I've kind of found my way through with the podcast and kind of lumbering into things, and I'm going to try to use so much of this going forward. And I think from looking at it's a kind of like the power of the circle you mentioned, because I've noticed that you would say you're going to do something, you create this unbreakable commitment to it in you make a contract with yourself and the universe. You then go and do it, and then you start reverse engineering the goal of how you're going to do it. You see the bigger picture, the end goal in your head. So you say, well, it can be done. This is how I'm going to do it. You use it as a kind of meditative tool while you're doing it, as you're doing each of the challenges. Then you kind of review it, and then you think, okay, this is what I've learned, and use that as a next diving board into the next challenge you're going to take on. Is that how you sort of see it? Is a kind of a whole circle, and it lets you kind of find out about yourself as you go through this circle of activities? Or like, how do you set these goals, or how do you see that version of you?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it.
I know it's a bit of a weird question.
No, yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly how I see things. I work backwards with it. I see it first, know I can do it, and then understand all the skills that I need to be able to achieve it. And then instead of like just trying to acquire all those skills and what do I do next, I just move that timeline, let's say, down to now that I've already got all those skills, and then I just start going towards it. So for me, I'll know the checkpoints I need to achieve along the way already. And it's just about, and it's not about I don't get hyper focused like some people do, or some coaches tell you to. Just be hyper focused, focus on that goal, drive everything towards that goal, don't lose sight of it. For me, once that goal is solid and I've seen the clear vision of it, it's like letting the river flow. Like I just throw it in the river. I see it's going up there. That river's going to run. I don't need to be hyper focused on it. I just focus on everything else that's going on, but knowing that I have these checkpoints that I'll hit along the way. And then that way I get to learn a hell of a lot more about myself along the way. And I'm not gone into that tunnel vision about getting this one particular thing done. I know I've already done it. In my head, I've already done it, so I know it's going to happen. So I don't need to go like, drive everything there, because again, I'm putting so much pressure on myself to do that instead of, I know I'm going to do that. Now let's just go towards all the steps towards it. I know the 5 steps I need to achieve along the way, but let's enjoy life along the way as well. Let's keep on learning along the way also. So, and then once I do that, achieve that event, then as you said, I look back, and it takes me, depending on what sort of event it is, sometimes it takes me a few days, sometimes it takes me a few months. Let's say the first paddle, I did the 800 kilometer paddle. We're coming up to 10 years. This January will be 10 years since I did that, but I'm still learning from it. There's still parts of it that I go, oh shit, and it's not until someone asks me a certain question that I haven't asked myself before, because we only know what we know, but we only know by what people ask us, and we know everything, but if no one asks us, we don't know what we know, right? So it's not until someone asks me a certain question that I go, oh, you know what? Give us a minute. Okay, here's the answer for that. I haven't thought about that before, but you're right. This is what I did in this situation, or this is how I got through this, or this is how my mind was thinking. And then once I have that, then that becomes part of my arsenal, part of my toolkit, ready to go into the next one. So then again, that levels me up. And again, it's not to say that, I'm better than anyone else, but, for me, it's just about competing against myself to get to the highest level that I can. Again, that's physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. There's a lot of things that I put aside for the last 10 years to be able to do what I do, to be able to share with other people. And now I'm still, I've gone back into doing events, but just doing it in a little bit different emotional sense, let's say, and a little bit different intention behind doing my events, and really just bringing it back to me, just to doing what I love doing, being in nature and just feeling these experiences and being in that present moment. And, like I was saying to that guy, Daniel, who we did a recent paddle with, I said, people feel like in a present moment and feel grateful, but they're very fleeting moments. They're really short-lived. We're going to be feeling that for 9 hours, feeling present for 9 hours, So when you're in that state, your mind just goes to such creative senses, just thinking about all sorts of different things that you don't normally think about, again, because you've got that open space, you've got that time to yourself, you've already got that trust, you know what you're going to do, you know what your goal is. You're just going to say, for us, paddle across the Gulf. We know that there's land over there, so we don't really need to think about those things. We just stay in that present moment and away we go. So, I share a lot of training aspects and talks and mindset leading up to events, but when I'm doing an event, that's my time. That's for me to just really take in that moment and be present with. And even, you know, I was talking to Daniel yesterday about it, and it's just, you know, I do events and I share, but there's a lot of events that I don't share with anyone as well, because, you know, I just like to be in that present moment and just really enjoy what I'm doing. You know, sometimes when there's cameras around and stuff, and it's not an ego sense, but there's like, you know, making sure that the lighting's right and this is right and this looks good and I'm getting the right message out to everyone. So it kind of takes a little bit of the magic out of it. So, you know, for me, I would rather do events that no one knows about, you know, just head out there and just start doing them, you know, and it just really take in the environment and really get in tune with myself. And, you know, then all your ego drops away and it's just you and what you're doing, you know. And again, I think this is important for men, especially, to be able to do that. Go and have time by yourself. Go on for a 3-day walk through the forest or whatever. Just, you know, be alone with your thoughts, because we get so distracted that whatever's hanging on in there, you know, girlfriend from 15 years ago, or the conversation that we should have had, that's going to keep fucking running around your head, and it's going to keep holding you back, and it's going to keep popping up in your next sort of relationships as well, until you can have some sort of understanding around it, some sort of appreciation, acceptance, and taking responsibility for your actions in it as well. As soon as we do take responsibility, then that's when we start to grow, and that's when we start to learn about ourselves, and we go, okay, we know what we need to change. And as you said, you know, that guy was saying you can change at any time where we can. People can just get off this podcast now and just go, right, you know what, I don't like the person who I am, but this is who I want to be, and now this is who I am. And again, it's not about I need to work towards being this person. I've got this 5-year goal to be able to do this. It's like, this is who I am. And just bring that timeline back down to now and just start being that fucking person. You know, whether it's changing your mindset, being happy, saying hello to more people, wishing people would say hello to you. But, you know, you've just got to just get started. Don't wait for these stages. Just see who you want to be and just bring that down to who you are now. And, you know, there's a whole thing of fake it till you make it, but it's not that at all. You know, and it's not about manifesting or anything. It's just about knowing, like really just stepping into it and just having this knowing sense that, you know what, this is who I am. And I'm proud to be who I am, and just live in your own lane. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. We've only got one life as far as we know. So we should just live it how we want to live it. And don't worry about what anyone else is thinking about us or telling us how we should live life. And then when we can get into that state, you know, that's a scary state to be able to live in as well, because, you know, you're in control of your life then. And when things come up, you know that you can deal with it because you're doing it your way.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
I love that. I love that way I like it, because initially when I saw your like you did free diving, skydiving, I was like, how do you learn skills? You know, now it's like, oh, it's part of the journey. I need to do that, so I'm just going to go learn it. Right, next step. I need to do that. I need to, you know. But that's, I think, the most important thing is there's too many people living a life just now that's not their own making. They're too busy thinking about what happened to them and letting it define them by not who they can be or what they can become. And it's like that concept of the circle. You know, by living life and doing stuff and achieving stuff, you're actually able to come to terms with your past but help others. Do you bring that into your life coaching? Is that the kind of approach by helping those people that you work with? Does it help you in a way? Do your challenges, is it cathartic in a way because it lets you deal with everything? or do you even think about those sort of events now? How do you think you've changed as a person, and how do you think it helps your life coaching, the stuff you've done?
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel I'm a good life coach because I've lived life. I've stepped into it. And again, I haven't just gone and read books and watched YouTube clips to have my knowledge. For me, it was important to, I got lied to a lot over the years. And, the times that I was in the darkest places felt like I'd been put there from therapists that I'd gone and see who had taken away hope from me by saying, you have to deal with this. You have to live with this for the rest of your life, and all you can do is learn to manage it. Now, that's taken away hope from people as well, saying that, you've got to live with these fucking voices and visuals in your head for the rest of your life. You think, for me, I was thinking, fuck that. How the hell can I live with this all my life, with what I went through and what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing fucking every day? How can I live with this, right? But that's not the case at all. Like, as I said, I don't have any emotional attachments to my past. It's non-existent in my life of who I am. And, and it's same as like, sure, I've done a whole lot of like cool events over the years, but I'm not defined by my events. But what I am is I'm the man from those events. So all of those experiences, that's who I am now. It's not those events make me. It's like everything that I've learned from those events is who I am now going forward as well. So, in the last 10 years, I just, I didn't read any self-help books. I didn't watch YouTube clips. I didn't watch videos. I hardly went and saw any speakers really, unless I was on stage. All I wanted to do was just learn all the information for myself. And I had all these questions I wanted answers to. And I was gathering more questions from other people that just didn't seem to be answered. And I just wanted to go out and really find out for myself and, not just try and get quick hacks from books or anything. I really just wanted to know what I was saying was authentic and it was my words and it was come just from a knowing place rather than, oh, yeah, someone told me this or I've read this in a book. But now afterwards, after I've had this time to reflect back on that last 10 years, now I'm doing so much reading and I'm doing courses and everything, diplomas in psychology and everything as well, because now it's about time for me to help me articulate all this information that I've gathered over the last 10 years as well. And again, it goes back to having those conversations, different conversations with people, but it's about learning now and being able to translate it better rather than taking someone else's words, but being able to look at their words and how they view things and go, okay, well, I can relate that to this situation I went through or these voices that I heard and everything that's happened to me in my life to be able to articulate it, go, okay, now I have a better understanding of everything as well. Because again, what we said before, you only know what you know, but you only know by questions that are being asked or what you're learning along the way as well. So I've kind of gone the other way. A lot of people, they learn all these things and then they go out and experience them and put them to the test. I put myself to the test first and now I'm learning what I already know. So that's why the paddle, keeps on teaching me along the way, just because, no one's asking me those questions or I haven't read these things. I know things have changed internally for me and externally, but it's about what is it that has changed. So it's, for me, it's always an exciting time and I just love to learn and be able to share with other people. But I think I'm a really good coach just because, I have had those experiences and I've gone through a lot. I've had the millions of dollars. I've lost the millions of dollars. I've traveled the world. I've put myself in crazy situations. I've had relationships. I've had, a kid. I've had, divorce. I've gone through all of these things, the violence in my life, the addictions, everything, has set me up to have really an understanding of, what someone else is going through. And it's not about putting myself in those situations, but it's about knowing the tools that I've learned along the way and also that I've gathered and shared with, we're talking tens of thousands of people. I've traveled around the world and I've facilitated over 300 wellness retreats. I've traveled across the US talking to people from youth detention centres, correctional facilities, HIV positive people, LGBTQ community, people who have been involved in gun violence in schools, to war veterans, to child abuse, you name it. I've gone through everything. I've washed homeless people's feet and given them shoes just so I could sit there and listen to them of how they got in that situation, and just trying to find out, what it actually is that people want in life and what's common with everyone, no matter what sort of trauma that they've gone through. So my research hasn't just been reading books. It's been out there really listening to the people on the streets and just having a better understanding of us and where we're all connected and how this is all similar and how we get in this situation, what keeps us going, and why do some people check out and others don't, who've gone through similar situations as well. So me, it's really just about gathering as much information as I can. As I said, in the last year, I've just been consolidating all of that information, tens of thousands of voices. And, it's been hard as well. Like I had a moment recently when I was in Dallas, and everything just piled onto me. Like, because I don't close things off, I had to keep all these, let's say, stories, like horrific stories and everything that I've seen and done over the years as well. Like, I stored all of this in my body so I can start to consolidate it and understand the patterns of everyone as well. So when I was in Dallas recently, I had like let's say not an overload, but there was like a real heightened senses of what was going on in my life and all these voices and everything that I'd heard, tens of thousands of voices and visuals, and shit just came through to me, like flooded me out of control, flooded me, that I was like dealing with at the time. And it took about 12 hours for me to try and sort through all that shit and just really purge it all out. But coming through it, I had such a growth from it and such an understanding of all these people, and came back here to Australia and just really calmed myself down and changed everything how I was thinking and looking at life. And it really got rid of, there's a lot of shit that goes on in the world that most people don't realize. A lot of things that I've seen that, would make your stomach just fucking turn, right? But, for me, so it was sometimes hard for me not to have still a little anger inside of me of what happens not to me but to everyone else. And I'm a warrior, protector and a provider, and that's who I am naturally. So for me, I've always been like that, and I've always felt an urge to protect other people as well. And that's probably comes from my upbringing, not being able to protect myself and my family. So I've always built myself to be, a bit of a warrior, to take everyone else's pain as well. But now, after this like recent purge, let's say, now I've just gone back more into my spiritual sense and got such a more open heart internally and externally as well. So now, as I said, I'm still going back into these events, but looking at it very differently and just being able to really share the love and positivity of life as well. Now that I've had that 10 years of gathering all the information of shit that was going on, while I'm still experiencing cool shit as well. But as I said, a lot of like darkness happens in the world, but being able to now filter that out, understand it, and just go forward with life. And it's, again, not to say I'm the full Dalai Lama, that everything's beautiful in life, but really just be able to show people that next level as well. Like, I don't dwell upon my past, and I unless someone asks me about it, I rarely talk about it as well. It's not because I try and shut it out. It's just because my life's moved forward from that. So I want to show that my audience and people who follow me as well, that life is amazing. You can still keep on going. And that's why I keep doing different events, because, people say, oh, it's okay for him, he's an athlete, but I can't do that stuff. But when they see me continually doing things, then, it kind of takes the excuses out of their life of why they're just sitting there wallowing in their own shit from something that happened 30 years ago. Now is what they can, live for now. And as we said, you can change your life at any moment, and you just get up and just go, you know what? That doesn't bother me anymore. That's got no existence for me anymore. And we're moving forward. And one of the big things as well, like I was thinking about the other day, is, that people get stuck on this, you got to forgive, and always get asked, do you forgive these people? Now, there's some things that happen in life, you're just unforgivable. It's no point in trying to fucking forgive someone, because you're just going to beat yourself up about it. But what we can do, I think that word's used incorrectly, and I think what people are trying to do is just have an understanding understanding why people did these things to us, or how understand that everyone is different. But again, going back to, we don't know what happened to someone in their childhood as well. So it's not about forgiveness in some things. It's just about understanding that we are all different, and that's why arguments happen as well, because someone's done something that we would have done a different way, instead of just having an understanding that we're all fucking different, and accepting those people for who they are. And then it's up to us, our responsibility or our accountability to either have that person in our life or not. Take them off the Christmas card list, put them at arm's length, or just get them out of our life, That's our choice. But again, it's about having that understanding that we are all different. Like, people don't understand why I do what I do. They go, "You're fucking mental." But then I look at someone who's working 9 to 5, sitting in an office, I go, "You're fucking mental as well." So it's just about understanding who you are and understanding that everyone's different. Everyone does things differently, and that's fine. So, and for me, that was a big thing about it as well, and not trying to live up to the Joneses and trying to be like anyone else. Just understand, and just embracing, I do things my way, and that's it. It's not to say I've got the way, because there's only one thing we know in life is no one knows if they're doing it right. No one knows at all. So we just got to do it our way. Yeah. So long as we're happy with how we're doing it, then that's the right way.
I seriously respect that. I think that's why you're so successful, is you're not just telling people how to do things. You're actually showing them, and you're just going, nope, there's no limitations. This is what I'm going to do. I've said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, and you just do it. And then you kind of use that as a way to sort of grow as a person. How do you deal with when it is getting a lot, or you've dealt with, like, when you're paddling and it made you come to terms with a bad thing that happened, or you've jumped off a balloon and you think, holy hell, that's amazing. Do you journal? Do you write this down? Or do you just kind of put it into your toolbox and say, that's the bit I want to take, the feeling I've been here, okay, next step. How do you use this? Like, the good, the bad? Like, what happens if somebody's listening to this and thinking, but I'm the bad person, that I did this bad thing, or I didn't have this, so I don't have that to deal with, or how can they, I don't know, transfigure it to suit their life, if that they were the bad person, if they were the good person, or the person who's not had enough life experience yet, if you know what I mean? How can you personalize that kind of approach, do you think? Is it possible, or is it we're on our own journey and we have to find it?
No, look, I mean, that's what coaches are for. Coaches are, hopefully they've been there before, so they know how to guide you, but it's not about, like, I don't tell people what they should do. I just suggest tools along the way for them to use and put into practice, but it's about really giving them that understanding within themselves and building up that self-trust of that they're going to be okay, because ultimately that's what we want to do. So there's like certain foundations of life that we all have. We have a connection to breath, connection to ourselves, and knowing that time keeps moving forward and we have to keep moving forward. So long as we have that foundation to come back down to, then we've got a new baseline. So whenever shit hits the fan, as long as we can come back down to that and go, right, take our breath. All right, got to get myself through this. All right, let's start taking those steps. And you just start walking again with it. But I mean, people who are, consider themselves bad people, they've really just got to have a look at what made them like that to start off with, and just have an acceptance around that. And acceptance is a really big thing, because there's a lot of things that just cannot be changed, and it's accepting that, you may have done some bad shit in your life, but if you don't want to be that person, then just don't be that person. Just start making the changes towards it and start understanding who it is that you actually want to be for yourself, not for everyone else as well. And that's a big thing too. Everyone's trying to be a people pleaser, and, how they should show up to the world. And, social media is just full of that as well. How people want to see them, but that's really not who they are behind closed doors as well, So it's about, again, being being able to trust yourself. And really that's the biggest thing that everyone's trying to achieve, is just that self-trust. If I travel around the world and I ask people, what's important to you, or what do you think is important to other people? And most people say financial freedom, love, relationships, good house, good car. But unless you have the trust, you're not going to be able to achieve any of those things. And all those things are unmeasurable as well, really. Like it's just like saying, I want to be rich, I want to be beautiful. What does that actually look like? But when you have that trust, when that's the goal that you're working towards, then it's measurable, because you can put yourself in different situations and go, oh, you know what, I handled that differently this time. Like I trusted myself to get through that. I trusted myself to take this challenge on. I trusted myself to go and ask that girl out on a date. So really that's what we're aiming to do. And even with the financial freedom, or if you don't trust yourself, then you're not going to take the risks to have that financial freedom as well. How are you going to find love if you don't trust yourself to fall in love? And a lot of people don't as well. That's quite a big thing. And it was for me as well, to fall in love. And when I was coming through, let's say some dark times, and, I'd see a beautiful girl and start talking to her and she'd be happy, I would think, my biggest fear was, shit, like, what if I can't get that happy? This is what I know I want to achieve, but what if I can't get that happy? So I would sabotage a relationship, because I was fearful within myself that it was being happy like that, like they were showing they were. I didn't know if that was possible for me through what I'd been through, all the hurt and hatred and violence that was running around in my body and in my mind. How could I get that happy? So I would sabotage these things. But it was about understanding and really just viewing the world around me and thinking about, why are they happy? What are they doing that I'm not doing? So really starting to, look at human behavior as well, of, of how I wanted to be in life and how I wanted to be moving forward, and be able to remove all this hurt and hatred and anger that I had inside me as well. A lot of people, especially men, we just carry that around because we don't have these conversations. But it's not just about having the conversations, it's about putting action to it. It's not just about talking to someone. It's about really putting, understanding the actions and the movements that we need for ourselves and making those changes, because, as we know, there's no one coming to rescue us. It's just us, and everything's up to us, no matter what it is that we're going to do or who we want to be. Everything comes down to us. And I think the hardest part for people when they are making changes is people from their past thinking of them as they were from the past as well, and not thinking that they have changed.
Yeah.
So whenever I see someone from my past, I don't look at them as who they were. I remember our cool stories and stuff, but I don't look at them who they were. I take them as who they are now. And I just see who they are now. Are they still doing the same things, or are they a completely different person? And I'm able to do that because I know I've changed. I know I'm a different person, so why wouldn't they be as well? Even if they were fuckwit back in the past, doesn't mean they are now. Who knows what's happened in that time? So I just take people as they are now. And I was talking about this with a girl the other day, and it's funny with relationships, it seems to be that, a lot of women get scorned from relationships. So they're kind of they go into it, and guys just get it fucking tough, because when we go into a relationship with them, they're thinking about every other guy that's fucked them over and then looking for you to do the same thing. So it's kind of like we're on the back foot to start off with. And we're like, shit, I'm not even doing these things. But they're picking something. Oh, you're doing this. And it's like, I'm actually not doing that at all. So then we start having these things and these issues start coming about. But I think most guys, well, for myself anyway, if I go into a new relationship, then that's fresh for me. We're starting from scratch, and this is a new person. And I'm a new person from what I've learned from the last one as well. So I think we need to be able to view ourselves and everyone else out, and not think of who we were in the past, but who we are now and who that person is in front of us now. Get more back into that beautiful present state, and continually keep on evolving and, reading and learning and, just do lots of courses, even if you're doing coaching courses like an Ikigai course or a shamanic practitioner course or something. And it's not about wanting that as a career, but it's about applying all those methods onto yourself first, and just learning. Because if you're not learning from someone else and the people around you, because you're only as good as you are with the people around you, you need to learn from outside sources as well. And then that way you start to make these changes. And as soon as you start making little changes in your life, everything else just starts to change as well. But if you just stay in the same, your same job, go drink at the same pub, the same lots of mates, well, how's anything going to change? You really need to make those changes, whether they're big or small. Like I make big changes. I go, oh, fuck, I'm moving countries, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I make quite big changes because I want to level up and level up and level up quite extremely, and I've always been like that, just to get the most that I can out of it. And again, it's not like I'm in a rush, but I'm just getting busy living. I just want to experience all that I can and just still live in the present moment, but just have these experiences for myself, and then how I can articulate that and share that with other people. So, again, men just need to be stepping out of their comfort zone a lot and just taking on new challenges and just having fun with it and just exploring themselves of who they are and who they want to be. And if you're not happy with who you are or the situation you're in, just change it, and don't wait, just fucking do it now. There's no need to wait for anything, even if you don't have money. And I get that with people all the time, if I have this amount of money, I'm going to be able to do this. But just be that person now, even if you don't have money. So an example of that is when I was living in one city and I was making a lot of money. I had like a skincare company, and then but I didn't know what result I wanted out of it. I was like, well, what's my end game with this? Why am I making all this money? And then I was like, all right, well, if I make all this money in 5 years' time, I'm going to be able to move back to the Gold Coast. I'm going to move straight back from the beach and be able to go in the water and go surfing again and just be able to train and have a good life. And I thought, well, what am I waiting for? If that's what I want, just go and do it now. So I'd left like the next day, the city I was in, and moved, and then started doing that and living that life that I wanted to right there and then. There's no point in waiting, because we don't know how long we're here for. So why wait? Why have this like 5-year plan that we're trying to work towards? We still have goals up ahead for sure, but just bring that person who you want to be now. Just be that person now and live where you want now, because if that's what you want to work towards, then just be it. The money and everything will come from it, but just, live how you want, where you want, with who you want now, I think. And I think that's kind of the best advice that I can give people. And that's what I do with my coaching, just allow people to see that a little bit better and see more within themselves, and really just eliminate all those walls of doubt that are holding them back, and all the fears as well. Like everyone has fears. Like I work with some of the best coaches in the world as well, and billionaires all over the world, and elite athletes, and they've all got fear and they've all got this doubt that's holding them back. So it's just been about to understand what that is and where they're holding it. And I just have this knack to be able to put them in situations that just eliminate that as well. Like I worked with a client over in Dallas when I was over there, and she had autoimmune disease, which is meant to be impossible to cure, right? It took me 10 days and it's gone. So just being able to look at things just in a completely different way, that again, because I've been able to do all these events, and I don't look at anything as impossible. So I just look at, okay, this is the result that we want out of it. This is how we're going to get there. So the same thing, same way I do events, I do with clients as well. Most people don't know the results that they want out of it, but I can see what they're missing and the result that I think that they want to achieve. And it's really, ends up being higher than what they expected anyway, because again, most people have this self-limitations of what their boundaries are. But I eliminate boundaries, and I did that a long time ago. People used to say, and I say as well, we used to say, it's about pushing the boundaries. I do these things to push the boundaries. But I thought, why am I pushing the boundaries? It sounds like I'm pushing the same boundaries every time I go into an event. Why don't I just fucking get rid of the boundaries so they're not there? So for me, I just eliminate the boundaries and then just live openly, and just explore everything in life and store all that knowledge and skills that I have, and not have to go through all that again, and not go through all the mindset. And, a lot of people ask, how do you train your mindset to be able to do one of these events? Well, I don't train my mindset at all. I just go and do them, because, again, all those limitations, those doubts and those voices and that pressure is just not there for me at all. I just go and do it. And I'm able to do that because I have that self-trust, because I've been able to, one, look back at everything that I've done in my life and everything that I've overcome. And then in recent times, the events that I've done as well, and I've been able to achieve. So there is no reason for me to have those doubts. And because I don't have the doubts, I'm able to push up the stress levels as well, and in a more controlled way. So when I work with clients, I understand that, and I can push their threshold up a lot further than what they think they can. And even with, just going back to this guy, Daniel, we spoke the other day, and there's a couple of events that I've got coming up, and one of them's in the ocean again, and it's going to be quite big, and there's a lot of sharks in this particular part of the ocean, and I'm going to see a lot of big white pointers along the way. But, I know I'm okay out there, but I know he's probably not going to be. So I said to him, there might be a couple of days that you join me on it, but some days that you won't as well. So I'll always push you further than what you think you can out of yourself, but I won't put you into situations that it's going to be too much for you, or you're going to be in danger for it. So, I'm not stupid and reckless when I work with clients. I understand their threshold, but also I understand, I've been a coach for 30 years, so I understand where people's thresholds are better than they do as well.
No, I love that. It's a beautiful way of looking at things, that you're not holding grudges. You're using that concept of life as a circle on them as well, that they've probably grown and developed, and you're bringing that into teaching with your clients. And it kind of leads into, what do you want the evolution of your brand to be? Are you taking clients on because you'll have inspired, motivated, encouraged people that they can change their viewpoints and their starting points? Are you currently taking people on? Are you writing new books? What can people do to work with you in that sense?
Yeah, I take clients on. I don't take a lot on, because when I work with someone, then I'm 100% devoted to them. So I don't take many on. I really take on, the whole essence of who that client is and what they want as well. So sometimes I do live-in experiences and just have complete transformations, or some online stuff. But yeah, look, for me, there's probably, I'll write another couple of books, but I've written enough books at the moment to be able to now just, live how I want. I'll still keep doing events. I love doing talks as well. But yeah, I take clients on, definitely. So people.
Well, I was listening to your TED Talk the other, and I loved your TED Talk. Yeah, it's amazing how you just, oh yeah, and then this is some of the stuff I've done, and people, you can see the crowd going, "You did what?" As you're listing off your challenges, and they're like, "What do you mean you did a marathon with it on your back? What do you mean you towed this? And it's that moment of, you can see in your face, it's like, okay, maybe this isn't normal, but your TED Talks, are you going to do more of those?
Look, TED Talks are good. I like doing TED Talks because you've only got 8 to 13 minutes for most of them. So you've really got to nail it down to the topic that you're talking about, and get that out there. But yeah, I don't really think too much about all of my events I've done until it comes up, or like we're doing a podcast, I live quite presently, but I just gather all that knowledge of who I am now from what I've done, and keep going forward. But yeah, look, I love doing talks, and I love Q&As after the talks as well, and really, starting to answer questions for people that they really want to know. But my favourite part of when I do talks is, I like to do the talks, I like the Q&As, but I like the questions afterwards, when the events finish and the people come up and ask really deep questions, and then that's where I have just some incredible conversations with people of, what they want to learn and understand But I love doing that, and love working with clients as well. And as I said, I've been doing it for over 30 years now, like on a physical sense and a mental sense, emotional sense. I work with females as well, getting them more into that divine feminine space, and helping men to understand what their masculine space is and how they should be, as a man, and what we've lost as well, to be able to be a protector and provider and be able to trust themselves as well, and to be able to just be like good men as well. And I think we're starting to lose a lot of that. And we touched on that a little bit earlier, but the world's starting to lose that, and men are getting quite confused of how they should be, and where is their role in life now. But we can't deny the natural sense and the primal sense of males and females, and how we should be. But again, with this fast-paced world, people are getting more, let's say, just thinking about themselves, and it's okay to be selfish on some aspects of it, but when you're talking about relationships, then there's got to be that compromise and understanding, and still true to yourself and not lose yourself in that relationship, but be able to look at each other and just see what you can add, how you can add value to that relationship as well, and then how that other person can fill in what you're missing also as well. It's not just about finding someone who mirrors you. It's about someone who's going to test and challenge you and allow you to level up and hold that space, and you be comfortable and trusting within yourself to be able to hold that space for your partner as well, so she can step into a more divine feminine self as well. And then you start to create a beautiful open relationship with each other. So I think that's something that's definitely missing with men, and it's not being taught in school as well, of how we are in these relationships. There's a lot of, divorces are on an all-time high at the moment with everyone. People aren't staying together. They don't know how to. But if you have a look at the old people, they've been together for like 50 years and that. But now it's like, if you're together for 50 days, it's like, you've done pretty well. So, but again, it's about coming back to that trust.
It's like it's a hardship, isn't it?
It is, but it's about both. But, the men have to just really step into that. Like, women will naturally test their man. That's just the nature of the beast with it. But it's about how we act and react to be able to hold that space for that person as well, and be able to work through and understand, how important they are for us. And, it's even if you break up, and it's not about just wallowing things around in your head, but it's about giving each other that time and that space, because just because it didn't work now doesn't mean it won't work, later on, or you can't have some sort of relationship with them or some sort of relations with them that you be able to be friends. I think there's probably only, maybe 3 or 4 women who I've been with in my life who I'm probably not friends with. I'm friends with all of the rest of them. It's about, I feel it comes down to them just seeing me as being consistent, and they just see me that I'm continually doing what I'm doing, and, it just wasn't our time, and that's fine. And there was shit that I needed to do and things I needed to find out, and I was on, my purpose and my focus to be able to do that, and it just didn't align at that time. And it doesn't mean that either of us are bad people from that. It's just wasn't, there was something not right there, or we learned what we needed to out of the situations and the lessons that each of us taught us, and how we dealt with our emotions and everything as well, or things from our past. Because you've got to understand, like, a lot of the times people are carrying things like an ancestry as well. It's not just what we've been through, but it's what our parents have been through, our grandparents, our great-great-grandparents. Everything just gets sort of passed on to us also. So it's about having an understanding of those things and breaking those cycles. And it's up to us, to really have a look at ourselves, have a look at what people are saying about us. And is that factual, or is it just on them? Let's have a look at that and not just be, no, that's fucking you, that's not right. It may not be right, but let's have a look at it. Like, why are they actually saying this as well? So it's really about not having that hard judgment on yourself and not beating yourself up, but just observing yourself of what you're actually doing, and have that more self-awareness of everything that you are. And I feel the best way to do that is by doing these type of events and tests and challenges, for yourself, because you do give yourself that time and you are putting yourself in physical, mental, emotional stress and trauma purposely to find out more about yourself and how you get through it. And the more that you do that, then, the better life is, and the more that you can deal with situations. And, the more events that I was doing, that's what I found. I was listening to people around me and they were just bickering and complaining about all sorts of shit that I felt I used to back in the day, but I don't now because they just don't bother me. So life just sort of, it's not like it gets easier, but you just get through things a lot quicker.
And is that what you would say to people listening? Is that, because you mentioned there about the need to be a good man in life? What would you define that as a good man? Is that the overarching mission? Do you think we should all have in life as a man, to be a good man, or how would you define, or how would we know we achieved that?
Well, look, I mean, a good man for me is good morals, intentions, and purpose. We have strong in our purpose, so long as we're not harming anyone else around us. We be kind to people, but kind doesn't mean being weak as well. We're still natural warriors also, so we should be protectors and providers. We should be able to help other people. And, for me, it's just about understanding that, I could punch someone in the face and knock them out if they were smart ass to me, but I'd pick them up with the other hand as well, so I don't need to. So I don't need to have a bravado. I don't need to walk into a room and puff my chest out or anything like that. Like, I know what I can do, and, but I don't need to pronounce it to anyone as well. It's just about being a bit more humble in life as well. But if it calls for it, it calls for it. As I said, those choices in life are either going to form an alliance, we're going to part ways, or we're going to fight, and it's just, we don't go looking for it. But, I think as a good man, it's about knowing what you can do, but you choose not to do it. There's big difference between that and cowards that just try and lash out at people all the time and try and act tough and talk a whole lot of shit. It's about not talking all that shit. It's just about knowing who you are and having that confidence and trusting in that. And then that way we don't have we don't have that jealousy, and we don't have that controlling aspect over our partner as well. We understand them. We're able to sit there. We're able to listen to them. And if a situation doesn't suit us, it's not about, thinking that you have to stay in there as well. It's about, do I want to stay in this? Is this suiting me? Or is this time for me to leave? But again, it's about, as a good man, that's what we need to do. We need to be able to trust ourselves. We need to be able to handle our business. We don't complain about money or anything like that. If we need more money, we just go out and fucking do it. We don't wait for handouts from other people. We just pull our socks up and we just get out and we get it done, whatever we need to get done. And, we be who we should be, and it's not just about talking and trying to have like everyone like us at all. It's just about having a core group of people around you. It's about being loyal and trustworthy and being able to project those things. And I think if you can do that and you have those good morals and intentions with yourself, then you start to become what a good man is, and then once you're like that, then you can find the right woman as well, and then I think when you've got two people like that, then that's when, you start moving into a different aspect of your life as well, having that trust and having that someone there who you can trust as well to be able to share things with. But it's not about, just having someone there and now you've got to unload all your shit all the time and all your emotions and all that sort of stuff. But it's about, making sure that you're holding space and being strong for them. But, if something does come up, that you are able to have those conversations and then be able to keep going. So a lot of men these days, because they don't know how to deal with emotions, as soon as they get a girlfriend who starts listening to stuff, then they want to just tell them everything all the time. And all these problems and everything. Fucking talk about your problems. Just go and sort it out. Just go and get it done. Don't start relying on other people to do everything for you. You still got to stand strong as a man, and you still got to walk tall and be proud of who you are. And I think those sorts of things. If you can trust yourself and be proud of who you are, then you start looking at the right side of what a good man is, and not just a nice guy. You don't want to be a nice guy, I don't think.
I love that. I knew you were going to be good, but I didn't think it would be hitting this level of good. I would love to have you back on. I know I've used up far too much of your time already, but what would you want to take from this? What do you want people to kind of take as an overarching mindset, a focus, a goal for the next 6 weeks or the last quarter of the year? How do you want them to kind of start adopting these teachings going forward? Is there a way to summarize this, or is it just jump off climb up your own balloon and jump off?
Well, I mean, in a sense, that's kind of
I'll
what
do
it
it.
is,
I'll shoot it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, look, have your goals, understand who you are, have that time out, go for a walk down the beach, go for a walk through the forest, just have that time by yourself to really reflect on what it actually is that, you want to be, who you want to be, and what you want to do in life, and then just start making those changes towards it. Focus on your breath. When shit hits the fan, just focus on that calm breath. Breathe in through your nose, all the way down your belly, hold for a beat, and then just let it slowly come out through your mouth. Once you do that, just relax your face, calm your breathing down from inhale to exhale, and just focus only on that. And then that should get you through pretty much most things, and that's a good foundation anyway to be able to start moving forward. And then start looking at your goals and look at your ikigai as well, what's your passion, your purpose, and what you can make money from. And then just have that as like a normal baseline to be able to keep on going forward. And, again, just be a good man. Don't try and please everyone. Just be a good man.
Well, until I can get you on again, I'd love to do. There's areas of questions I would like to go into, which are probably podcasts on their own. But I mean, you are a sensational guy. You've changed so many people's lives. You've inspired so many with your goals and your life coaching and the challenges you do. And I knew this is what I needed to kickstart my own sort of journey into life, was by speaking to you, because you've done all these things. You've broken all the kind of bullshit chains of complacency that hold people back. You've made people realize they can change and just go and do it. And all the stuff that they're talking themselves out of it is complete noise. They just need to know the difference between pressure and stress. And I'd love to have you on again. And I hope you've had as much fun as I have. But how can people follow this journey? Because I'd love to see you doing courses, TED Talks, these kind of mentor groups where like people can like live talks and stuff. How can we follow this amazing journey that you're on?
Yeah, thanks, man. I'll definitely come back on again. Yeah, it's been great. And fucking congratulations. I didn't say at the start, but congratulations on your podcast as well. I mean, you're fucking doing it. It's a tough thing as well to be able to do that. So, so many people just stop, think, oh, this is going to be easy. I'll just do a podcast, and they do like one or two and go, shit, what do I do now? So hats off to you for whatever for you doing it, right? And it's the same process. So for you to be able to do this
funny
podcast,
enough, I thought you should be doing one.
Well, I've always thought I keep getting told, but I keep moving around too much. So I'm just can't just carry my equipment everywhere, So one day I'll settle down, I guess, and I'll start doing it. But I've just got my focus out somewhere else. But the process that you're going through or went through to decide to do a podcast and then to keep on going, that's the same process to get through anything in life as well. It's all the same. You just got to move it across from here to there. Same process, same mental aspect of it. Why do you want to keep doing another podcast? Why do you just quit? You obviously haven't quit doing podcasts. So, you find more people and you find more ways and you learn more things, and, you learn different equipment to use and how to be more efficient with it, and different apps and everything to use for it as well. It's all exactly the same process, no matter what you're going through life, whether it's a relationship, jumping off a balloon, or whatever it may be. It's exactly the same process. So you've already got the tools for it. You've just got to shift those tools from one to another. It's just, you're not learning how to do things here, how to do things here, how to do things here. They're just different job tasks of how you learn things in life. You know, and people separate all these things out of life, but it's all just fucking one life, and it's just different job tasks. So you don't need to relearn how to deal with stress here, relearn how to deal with stress there. It's just the same stress, same pressure. It's exactly the fucking same, you know. So maybe just think about that in the audience as well. You know, whatever you're doing, whether it's in business or whatever, it's the same fucking process no matter what you're going through. You just get to practice it more when you understand it like that. But people can just follow me on Instagram. I've got a good event coming up on January 3rd, which marks 10 years since my first paddle. And I'll be going down the same course as well in the ocean for 800 kilometres. So that'll be fun. Then I've got one over in the Maldives and then in the US as well. So there's a few big ones coming up at the start of the year. But yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, they can reach out at any time. I reply to everyone. And if someone wants to do some coaching, we just jump on a call and have and start seeing what it is and seeing how I can help you and start moving forward. But yeah, man, I'd love to jump on again and have another podcast with you.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.